you're not as good as your best month and you're not as bad as your worst month. You're usually somewhere in between. I think it's really easy in this business to get imposter syndrome too when you're around other people who are doing big things and feel like, do I really belong? Is this where I need to be? Am I doing the right things? Am I saying the right things?
Have you ever had imposter syndrome?
Welcome to Stop Whining About Real Estate. Join us as we chat, sip, banter, and wine with the best in the biz. Grab a glass of your favorite vino, sit back, relax, and let's wine together.
All right. Afternoon, everybody. So we are filming right after the girls did their podcast. We're going to call this the Battle of the Sexes. I got my buddy, Big John Hinks here all the way from South Carolina. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
And I got Brian Mozley, my business partner from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. We got to keep up with the girls.
I know it. I'm Emmanuel St. Germain. This is Stop Whining About Real Estate. And here we go, boys. So let's get it started. Something really simple. What do we think they talked about?
Well, I don't know. They're all pretty good at what they do. So I imagine there was probably some references to what they've done in their careers and what they're doing in the industry.
So for any of you who probably skipped over their episode because you went straight to ours,
Right.
Correct.
we have to make sure we let them know who was on that show. So we had my cohort, Sarah Birnbaum, who's our business development director. There was Adriana Bates-Finn, who is a powerhouse broker owner in Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah.
And I want to say Kansas City, Kansas. Like, you know,
I
like
know.
How did that happen, by the way? But all right,
Kansas City,
that's a different
Missouri.
podcast.
I think it's
yeah.
a river. That's how it happened.
All right. Well, there you go.
Okay.
And then we had Tammy Schneider, who is our common glue. So we can, let's talk about that. So,
Yeah.
because Tammy for us, I can tell you for me was a fundamental change in how our current company and your prior company were set up. And I'm sure there's a lot of influence. So tell me a little bit about Tammy's influence in your life, John, and in your business.
Well, Tammy's been my coach for the last year and a half or so. But Tammy has always been part of this coaching group that we were a part of. And she was my, how do I put this delicately? She was my butt kicker, right? You know, she was the one that kind of kept me moving and motivated. And if you ever wanted an accountability partner, she was the one. Speaking of those three ladies, that's a very intimidating room, by the way. So, I'm not gonna
Just coming
lie.
from the 6'8" ex-rugby player.
Yes.
This is not the three women I would approach at a bar with a lot of hesitation. We're like, what am I going to say? But no, she was the one that she kept our drive going. And so I owe a tremendous amount of gratitude to her more than anything else because, and so that's why I went back to her after all those years is she was the one that get me in, and she did it again. Rinse and repeat, man. Repeating the same thing she did for me all those years ago. And, you know, some hard years, but she helped me get through them.
That's awesome. Brian, tell me a little bit about your relationship with all of our, your current coach, our former coach. Are you coaching with Tammy still right
Yeah,
now?
I still do coaching
Okay.
with Tammy. She is a large factor in me changing my mindset in this entire industry. And joining the coaching group that I joined, that's where I went from being on an island, not really understanding what was possible, what other people were doing, how to run a business, not having that mentorship and leadership. I went, completely changed my mindset on what is possible in this business and what's realistic and how to have the right mindsets and the right work ethic, what to be spending my time on. She's largely responsible for that in many ways. So she's an inspiration. She's made a lot of big difference in loan officers' lives around the country. She's coached a lot of big producers, and I owe a lot of my success to her.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think one thing that's really important to kind of share with people is that, and, it's not like we're talking 50 years ago and before television or before any of that stuff, but before social media was what it is today, which, listen, this podcast you're going to see, there's going to be some short clips and we're going to catch you saying something awesome and put it out to the world. And that's how a lot of news is delivered today. But before that, it's really important to think that I remember when I met Tammy, I was introduced to our coaching group through Marvin Finkelstein, I think his name is.
Yeah.
And Marvin was over my house for a New Year's party, and we were having a conversation about the mortgage industry. And the biggest takeaway I had is like, you only know what you know. You don't realize that there are so many other ways to do something, and that there are some people out there have just got it figured out a little bit better, a little bit faster than you.
Yeah.
And I remember going to my first event. And so I started coaching with Tammy, and you guys know me, I'm extremely direct. And I said to Tammy, I go, Tammy, there's this event in Dallas in a month. And like, I don't know that I have time to go and get my life organized to go, like, but is this a rah-rah? I go, I don't like the BS. I don't like the rah-rah. So a little rah-rah is fine.
You wanted to go into the meat and potatoes.
I'm already sold. I had listened to some of the podcasts, and I had my initial coaching call with Tammy, like the consult, whatever it is. I'm like, I freaking love this. I love this whole concept. And again, I only knew about being a loan officer from my small prism. And then all of a sudden we go to Vegas in May of 2017. And that's when I met both of you. And ironically, here we are, 8 years later, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it's really, I was so shocked by how, I like to think of myself as a fairly open individual and, somewhat intelligent individual. And next thing you know, I was like, man, there's some amazing mortgage people. And like, wait, you have, what's this loan partner? You have an assistant? Wait a minute, your processor is the one that's chasing conditions? Like, you don't have to do that? And so many different things that I was just mind blown. And like now today, literally being a loan officer can be as little as 10 to 20% of my day. I get to spend so much more doing other things. And for me, I choose to do it for our company. But what a life-changing,
Oh yeah.
introduction she was.
Oh yeah. I was drinking from a fire hose to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
You would show up at those events and they would talk to you about what you can do in your business and how you should run your business. And
What's a CRM?
What's a CRM? I don't know what a CRM is, and one of the things that Tammy threw out there that I love to quote is like, you are the prize, right? And I think it's very easy in this business to feel like you have to take from other people instead of what's your value, what do you bring to the table? And it changed my whole mindset on how I run my business and realizing that I can offer a partnership with the people that I'm working with. I can help them grow, that I have value instead of just people pleasing my way through whatever it was that I was doing.
Right.
It shifted me from hating the business to loving the business. I went past toleration and went to loving the business because it created a sense of freedom where, like, if you built it out right, what we didn't really learn at that time is like how long it may have taken to do that, right? Or the pains and the struggles to go along. But that's what was so powerful about getting to hang with guys like you and those three women there is you got to hear their pain as well. And you kind of just said to yourself, I'm not the only one, right? And it's a process. So the reward is going through the pain and getting to that point and then waking up the next day and going like, dude, I kind of love this. This is actually really cool. And I'm getting to do this and this is what we've built. And you go back and look at it. It's almost, I always use the analogy of a giant fence. Like you started that first post and it's a mile away, but then you finish it and you're like, there's a mile of fence we just did right there.
Absolutely.
So that's what I got out of it. And that's where
I remember too. So like one of the hard things for me was as a competitive person, I was like, oh my God, this person is already there. Like we got so much room to go. Like I've got to get going. I got to get back to work. Mm-hmm. I would come back and no joke, I would have pages and pages on my yellow pad of all these different notes. I'd take notes on all the presentations. There were so many technology things. And the company that we had worked for nobody did any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing that was brought to the table other than what I was learning as part of our coaching group. So literally we didn't have a CRM. So we built out our CRM and I had a lot of fun in those years that Jared and I would just literally whiteboard, and we were architects of, all right, what do you want this action to do? And like, we would sit there, and he's obviously much more techie than I am. So he would actually build it out. But he goes, well, what do you want on this email? Well, this email needs to go for here. And can we get it to text? He's like, no, not yet. All right. Like, when can I get it to text? And all of a sudden you keep adding these different components, and then you go, and then before we had time to implement, one of the 10 projects that I came back with, it's time to go to another event.
Yeah.
And then I'd run into you guys again and say, like, what are you guys up to? Oh my God, we did this. And I'm like, oh no, here we go.
Yeah.
I'd come back and Jared would be like, dude, I can't, we can't handle all of these things all the time.
Did he get a little nervous whenever you went to an event?
So yes, until he started. So like and then we started going to the Mortgage Collaborative, and then he came to that type of event, and he loved that as well. I think in our coaching community, we pretty much exhausted a lot of what the tech that they were bringing on, the processes and things like that. So we kind of elevated our stuff, and now we're looking at a different coaching group that you and I know about. And
right.
We think there's a lot of value add to loan officers. And then individually, like, I want to get better. I get bored, sitting here by myself, like, I get bored. I need to be pushed. I need to be challenged. Like, how can I be a better CEO?
Yeah.
How can I connect with my team better? How can I lead better? Have greater empathy? Like, all of it. Like, those are all the things that, I'm 46. Like, how long are we going to be doing this? I don't know, 10, 20, however many years it's going to be. Like, I'm not satisfied just sitting around twiddling my thumbs. I want to figure out how to be the best version.
I think iron sharpens iron.
Love that.
I think that mindset is hugely underrated in this business. And if your head's not right, you're not going to do the things and the activities that you need to do. And it's important to surround yourself with other people who are holding you accountable to that, mentoring you, investing in you, challenging you, looking at problems differently than you might be looking at them. And so often in this industry, I'll go home at night and there's these problems in my head that I'm still trying to figure out, right? And when you have a John Hinks, when you've got an Adriana Bates-Fenn, when you've got Emmanuel, people that are your buddies that you can reach out to who are fighting the same fight, doing the same things, trying to grow their business, you learn from them. And you're not always doing everything the hard way every single time. You can learn from those around you.
John, we were just talking about this as being one of the number one problems in our loan officer community at the moment is people just aren't having fun. Talk to me about that.
People aren't having fun. We did go through like 2 or 3 years where it just seemed like every month was just more bad news or maybe some good news and then taken away from you again. And, it was hard. It's really hard going to one of the best parties ever to, a giant hangover for 2 or 3 years. And, we all knew it was fake. I mean, I knew it was fake, but I was in it, I think the joy, though, where we were surrounded by negative.
How do we get it back?
Feedback. Oh, getting together.
We're already starting
getting together. I mean, getting together, remembering what the benefits of being in this industry are. And, you really think about it. Those of us that are still in the industry, we're kind of the cream of the crop. We made it.
There's a lot few left.
There's a lot few of us left. I mean, but we're the ones that, you said iron sharpens iron. I mean, we woke up every day to sharpen our swords. We were trying something new, and whether it worked or not, you went back to, how do I originate a loan, and then how do I protect my time with my family, and what's important, and finding that balance, and that brought me joy on that aspect of it as far as staying in the business, and yeah, it's more than a toleration, but the joy part of it is you got to find the people. I think people is what brings joy. What I missed the most about that group that we were in together was it may be 3 months away before I got to see you again, but I knew it was 3 months away.
Yeah.
And there was also a little bit of that, man, I can't wait to show Emmanuel what I did in the next 3 months. So then there was that motivation because you didn't want to show up to those meetings saying you didn't do what you said you were going to do.
Right.
Or Tammy would beat you down.
Right.
That was the other part of it. I was scared of Tammy. So that's the reason why I did
ended
those things.
meetings with the whiteboarding.
That's correct.
Right?
Yep.
When's the last time you've whiteboarded?
It's been a while.
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
Hey, a little food for thought. Maybe we add that back to the mix,
Should
right?
be a podcast.
That's good because what you're nailing on is community. We're nailing on accountability, right? And most of the loan officers that I'm talking to right now are lacking both of those things. They're tired, they're worn out, they're on an island. And I think we have really realized these last 2 years how important that community is.
It's essential.
It really is. What do you do? So but let's talk about that. Let's throw out some ideas. What are some ideas about how could we create a community that would draw people in and that would allow people to have fun, right?
I found the most value in mix and mingling beginning producers or producers that were just quite not over that hump they want to get to, and mixing them in with producers that have reached that goal. And I'm not knocking other conferences at all, but I find more value sitting around a table of my peers than I do listening to people talk at me for 30 minutes at a time. And I find value in those things by reading, listening and taking notes. And that's a good point. I can use that ism when I get home, but I get way more value in sitting down with someone that's doing something I'm not doing. And then I just get to sit there and just pick their brain to no end and be like, okay, well, hold on, before you got to that point, where were you 6 months ago? And because that might be where I am right now. So what did you do for this month? How did you get there? I think that's where it's at. The roundtable discussions, the collaboration and so forth. And a very abundance mindset, even if you work for different companies, you work for different companies, it's a mindset of like, we all want to do it better. I mean, I'm most of the time for the loan officers in my market, I'm not competing against them. I never run into them.
Right.
So
I think the overall, so one takeaway that I heard there that I really liked, and it kind of made me think of my dad, is having someone who has a tremendous amount of experience with someone who hasn't been in the game quite as long. Like, I know that my dad gets invigorated a little bit when he gets to, drop knowledge. And recently, so we've redone our sales. So we do a weekly sales call for all of our loan officers in our company, John, and Brian leads that call. And so one of the things that we've added to it, which I thought was a really genius idea on your part, Brian, and it's really about, he's choosing a different branch manager, loan officer to present in that week. And what's happening is you're getting someone who has to prepare. Like, this isn't just me talking to people or talking at people, as you just said, from a stage, right? Mm-hmm. This is really a peer collaboration of somebody in New Mexico, somebody in Maine, somebody in Kansas City, right? Mm-hmm. We all have different markets, and one solution for one person isn't necessarily going to work, but I at least understand. I hear what you're trying to do. So talk a little bit more about grit. Tell John all about grit and a little bit about where that came from and some of the ideas that we're getting.
Yeah, I was sitting down thinking about our sales meetings, and I felt like the meetings were good and we were getting a lot of value, but I felt like there was no collaboration. And I felt like as loan officers, we were coming to this meeting and we didn't feel like we had to bring something. We didn't have to share something. We didn't have to be vulnerable. And it's one thing when leadership is talking to you, but it's really easy to drown that out a little bit because you can say, well, you're not in the trenches with me. You're not going through the same things I'm going through, and by the way, that's not a valid excuse because you are a producer, you are a loan officer, you are doing those things.
For full transparency, what we're basically doing is I'm taking punches to the gut here because I was the one running these meetings, but all good. Again, listen.
Hey, I was trying to be tactful about that. No,
No, all good.
There was nothing wrong with it other than the fact that
you don't have to say, trust me. They're much better now, and I'm happier for it.
I just think, it's a collaboration piece is what it is. So as I was thinking about it, the things I really wanted us to do individually and as a company was we need growth. We need to rely on each other. Everybody needs to invest, and we need to thrive, not survive, right? So you take those words, and that's grit. And if you look at the last 2 years.
So what was that again? Growth?
It's growth, relying on each other, investing, and thriving. Grit. Right. And
I heard at the end of the year there might be some gritties.
That's right. But yeah,
it's kind of like the ESPYs, but we're calling them the gritties, John.
So I got this idea from John actually, where you would have sales contests, right?
The bobbleheads.
Yeah.
And you guys would have a bobblehead for whoever won the sales contest. So I thought, nothing would be better than for us to have the Beard, the Pearlman, our COO, Jared, as a bobblehead.
Why
with a
him?
Superman
cape.
He's
he's never been the top loan officer. So why did you pick the Pearlman?
It's funny looking.
I picked
either that or you're going to put my little glasses on.
Yeah, well, it was Emmanuel or Jared. Jared stood out to me because he's the one who has our back. He's the one who's in charge of ops, and none of it would be possible without Jared. And I figured, hey, if I've got a bobblehead of my COO on my desk, then anytime I have an ops question, he's right there. So,
well, mine was my bobblehead was my processor that I had for the longest time. Her name was Brenda. And she retired, and it was the worst day in my career when she retired because she was everything to me. So I created the award after her and literally brought her into the office and took 8 pictures of her so I could make sure the bobblehead was as accurate as possible. So yes, the Brenda was on everybody's desk that won the sales award and so forth. And we took it everywhere with us. If we went to an event, we brought Brenda with us, and she'd sit on the table with us. And, we had it set up where people would put their business card on it if they ever won the Brenda. So we had all these business cards on it. We still got her. She sits behind me every day on my videos every day. She's behind me. She's right next to my little bobblehead. I have one of myself now.
You have there's multiple.
I do.
I've seen, on your
I
shelf.
collect them. Yeah, I've got a problem.
I think it's super cool. I think that actually, it might be. I just thought of another interesting onboarding gift to put into the swag bag.
That's not bad.
Here's your bobblehead.
Yeah.
After your first, no, that's what it. Ooh, even better. Hold on. So you do your normal swag box or whatever it is, but after your first closing, we send you your bobblehead.
I love it.
Yeah, that's a little momentum to remind you of the first closing you do with the group. But
that's a great idea.
Let's talk. All right. So I want to talk about sales culture, right? You guys are both dominant people in your organizations and leading salespeople. What do salespeople follow?
I think salespeople follow by, someone who's leading by example.
So you like leading by example. Okay.
And again, that's really what we were looking for in our sales meetings was how do we make it collaborative? How do we make it where, I've talked to our different branch managers and loan officers and said, hey, be thinking about what you can add of value to our meetings because you never know. I might be calling you next week saying, hey, can you share at our next sales meeting? And so I've got everybody thinking about that. And I think that changes the mentality when you go into a sales meeting instead of just taking, what can I give? What can I help others with? And so in that way, we're all kind of leading by example.
I think also what ends up happening, and we tend to have a great group of individuals, but one of the things I like is that when someone else, Brandon presented last week, all of a sudden people are paying a little more attention, right? This isn't somebody who's talking every week. And so this person went out of his way to prepare, to get organized, and to present for you, give him his credit, give him his respect that he's due and pay attention. 5 to 8 minutes of whatever he's going to talk about. And because also don't forget, to Brian's point, he may call on you next week. And do you want everybody rolling their eyes and looking at, on their phones, or do you want people to pay attention? And so I do like that piece of it. I think it creates an opportunity for people to kind of care about each other a little bit.
I think that's a great point, right? Like if I'm going to be sharing from my heart what I'm doing in my business, I want people to value that and show respect to what I'm talking about. And if I'm not showing that same respect, and I know I might be the one talking 2 weeks from now, it's fair game, right? So it holds us to a higher level of respect for each other. But the other thing is we all have different strengths and we have different weaknesses. And what Brandon is really good at in his business is not necessarily what I'm really good at in my business and vice versa. So it really gives us an opportunity to pull from each other's strengths and try to get better as a whole.
Right.
And it's not just strengths too. It's what you like to do.
That too.
I have loan officers that absolutely despise picking up the phone and making calls. So we decided to, instead of fighting against the grain, lean into what they're good at.
Yeah.
And then exactly what kind of calls were they making, right? So much to y'all's point, where you find different people to showcase what they're doing and they're putting their heart into it, you're going to get that one speaker in 1 week. They're like, that's kind of what I would be okay with what they're doing. That would make me feel okay. Yeah. You kind of go back to like what you're good at and what creates relationships and what you like to do. Yeah. So we have one loan officer and she loves social media posts that are just funny memes, whether they're appropriate or inappropriate. I don't care, but she draws attention and she just does it on a regular basis. I mean, she's consistent with it. And I remember the conversation with her. I was like, are you really attracting the right clientele for this part of it? Or is this what your target? And she was like, I got 10 pre-quals from it last week. Wow. I'm like, double down, Wow. And she's just, and that's her thing. And she's like, what she taught me, even though I'm technically quote unquote the sales leader, is there's 25% of the people in the world in your life that are going to use you no matter what. And she speaks to that 25%, and she captures all of them. And that's kind of...
There's more to this, because the irony is like he literally went over this in our meeting on Monday.
This was our sales meeting.
Yes.
It was the
50% may, but as long as you're in front of them.
And 25 will no matter what.
So she doesn't speak to that last 25%.
Right.
And that's really kind of Brandon's message. Brandon knows his value as a loan officer. He knows who he wants to partner with, and he does a very good job of investing in those relationships, maximizing his time and not spending a bunch of time on what he feels like are low value activities, going after people that aren't his 25%. And so we kind of blended that together. We talked about that, and I had a couple loan officers come back to me saying, it's like I know this stuff, but I forget about it, and it was just such a great reminder. Yeah. And there's always a different point that we can hit.
But that's the joy, Emmanuel. That's what I'm talking about, is when you wake up and you get to do those things. So like, Kelly, the loan officer, she wakes up and that's what she gets to do all day. She gets to attract people in that way. And she does a darn good job making her living doing that. And I love teaching classes. That's the way I get in front of agents. I like to teach classes. I don't like to go for coffee. Coffee gives me too much coffee will give me an ulcer. I like to teach classes. So I like to put 10 agents in front of me and say, look at these cool gadgets that I'm doing right now. So I will wake up and get excited about that. And then my follow-up with those agents after the class is that's my secret sauce.
Like continuing education type classes or just regular classes?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. I do a lot of that cageless stuff. I turn it into for real estate agents, not just loan officers. And got a partner in that, and she and I went back and forth trying to figure out how to teach it to agents. And she's an agent herself, very, very successful agent, and we create it for agents.
If a loan officer wanted to get involved with that, like how do you create a class? How do you build a class? Do you find them online?
Well, I luckily printed it out. They just need to call me, and I'll help them do it. But yeah, I can get them those classes. But I think what's really important is to do a mock class with your peers first, get the feedback, get the kickbacks and so forth. But agents are engaged when you do that type of stuff. But what's more important back then is it makes me happy that they walk away with some nuggets. And I'm going to work with them, but with the follow-up, I brought them value today. And that was I think that's the joy that I'm trying to get to here is when I wake up, who am I bringing joy to today? Because that's what makes me happy, is to bring joy.
Well, you are good at that. So one thing that I know too, so I think we were chatting about classes last night at dinner. And one of the most important pieces, if you're a loan officer or biz dev type person like Sarah and want to teach classes, one of the biggest things that one personality type is, which is the same personality type that doesn't do something until they've perfected it. They can't start, right? They're waiting on this perfection concept. The biggest thing that I would tell any of those individuals is don't forget your audience that knows a like microcosm of what you know, and you don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Now, if that person is going to come up here in a room of studs, with like you guys, and wants to talk about mortgages, well, that's different. Then you better be prepared. And, like I know all three of us have presented on stage in front of each other at these
Nerve-wracking.
events. And it is a little nerve-wracking.
Little dude on my shoulder saying, "You're not worthy."
Yeah. Not only are you not worthy, but it's really this is the best of the best.
Yeah.
You're out there and you're on stage and you're like, you're being judged by someone who can tell if you're bullshitting.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like, no offense to realtors, but I could go next door to that Keller Williams and I don't have to practice on any kind of presentation. I can talk and they're going to go, oh, he knows what he's talking about. He's good at what he does. Because it's not going to come across that way. Now, you could be in the audience and saying like, what is he talking about? That's not what guideline is that? I know this is wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the getting on stage and teaching classes and I think that's one of the things that's happening right now. I think that the successful loan officers are the ones that are getting it done. I know that sounds awfully simplistic, but just meaning they're able to find different solutions, to different types of products. Tell us a little bit so I want to hear a little bit about the culture and what are some of the things that you've done in your organization, John, to establish an awesome culture. What can you teach Brian and I to help us grow our culture?
No pressure, John.
No pressure. So
it's like, man, I wish I had known these questions ahead of time.
creating stickiness is very important. And I think you create stickiness by planning a future. And then just like a vision of like, what do you want it to look like 3 years from now? And how do we do that? And I think, that's been so challenging the last couple of years though, because you've really been clawing your way to make sure you're still around. Because loans are not as easy as they, to come by. You used to be able to walk from your car to your office and a loan fell out of the sky, hit you in the head. And now you're digging 8 feet deep just to get one to work. For me, I really find value in making sure that the loan officers are waking up every day and they have a purpose. And it's a daily reminder. Tom Glass, he works with us. And I had a conversation with him. And I said, man, I feel like my Monday morning calls are so redundant and it's the same thing. Share your wins. What are you doing? I heard this works. And I feel like I'm bringing absolutely no value. And then he just said back to me, he says, but what's the attendance like, John? And because it's not mandatory. And I'm like, well, that's pretty good. We're pretty consistent. We got all 16, 17 that's on here on a regular basis. And he says, we need that. He says, you don't understand that it's the consistent showing up for us every week. Whether you have something or you don't have something, you're pulling something out from someone else and you're constantly trying to learn and you're constantly trying to get better. We all know it's hard. There is no magic wand. So it's the support of like, you're here today. What can we do? How did we win? What did you do to get those? What did you do to do that 2 million this month? Because Jen over here, she wants to break 1 million, and Jen, listen up, in that part of it, it's the consistency, I think, in my opinion. Yeah, don't be an
You're very
overriding
lucky to
agent.
have a Tom supporting you. Clearly, I didn't have a Tom when I was running the sales meetings.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear you. I am lucky.
They threw a
I
coup
am
on
lucky.
me.
I am lucky. I am lucky.
The,
Yeah.
the cord got
Yeah.
the plug got pulled, and no, I'm just kidding.
I think it's tough to be a leader, though. I mean, it's tough to be a leader because you guys are both originators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you feel the same pain, but you still got to get on that call and keep people driving to do what they've got to do. But I do think there's power in that you're doing what they're doing. I'm doing what they're doing. I'm trying.
Yeah.
My people are doing better than I am.
So I'll be honest with you, it goes both ways. So like from a recruiting standpoint, when we're talking to people for other companies, I do love it. I love saying that my loans don't go ahead of any of our other loan officers. I don't have special privileges. I don't act that way because I want them to truly know that I am following the system and processes that we've designed, and they're there to help you and to make your life easier. And that's why only 10 to 20% of my days being a loan officer is because we've built this out for you, and you just have to plug in and follow it. It's not very difficult. But more importantly, like the big thing is that from a production standpoint, right? Not only is that important, it's also here's where the negative comes in. Like I know how easy it can be. So I know how hard it can be, and I know how easy it can be. And so just like for you, you have the birdie or whatever, whatever's on your shoulder telling you I'm not good enough. On my head, I'm saying like, why aren't you working harder? I got one that tells me like, how did you only do one loan last month and I did 17, right? And then, or the next month, how is it that I'm only going to do 3 loans instead of, and I did 17 the month before? Like, I remember our coaching group used to talk about this, and it was because of, the roller coaster. And the roller coaster was because of lack of origination activities and being consistent with it. And I think we're all guilty of it. But part of it, the same token, is like we stopped doing so many of the activities for a specific reason. Like realtors don't have as many transactions. Calling the same realtor every week, asking them if they have a deal for you, like you are being a pest. You're being a nuisance. Like that way of doing business is not necessarily the best anymore. You can't be out of sight. You can't forget them because someone else will call. So there's got to be some sort of balance on what activities we should be doing in order to get greater production.
I think that it's really easy to define yourself by where you're at in that moment. And what I mean by that is you're not as good as your best month and you're not as bad as your worst month. You're usually somewhere in between. I think it's really easy in this business to get imposter syndrome too, when you're around other people who are doing big things and feel like, do I really belong? Is this where I need to be? Am I doing the right things? Am I saying the right things?
Have you ever had imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I
have it right now.
I'd be lying if I said I have not, especially in the coaching group that we were in. And you get on stage and you share something that you're doing. You're sharing your experiences. And yeah, when you're talking to I'll drop a name here, a Tammy Saul who closed almost 400 loans in a year. It's easy to get imposter syndrome for sure.
But why? What do you think that means about imposter syndrome? So like we all have different. That doesn't
get it confused with humbleness too,
right?
Yeah,
So like your brain should go into. So my brain goes in our world, not in other worlds, but in our world, there is no room that I'm happy to go have a chat with the CEO of Rocket Mortgage. Guarantee you I know more about doing a mortgage than he does.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's in our world because we've done all of it. Like there's no room I don't feel. That doesn't mean that I can't congratulate Tammy Saul for being a badass.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't mean, but I
think what I was saying is there's ups and downs.
You have every skill set that she has, if not more, and you have way more empathy. Like she's got a certain set of skills that she's great at.
Yeah.
You are much more relationship oriented. You're easier to talk to for so many people, and you're going to connect on a different level. So don't have imposter syndrome. You belong in the room, bro.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. That means a lot. And I really appreciate that. I think where it really stands out to me is what John's talking about with the consistency. I think it's easy to be like, what am I offering of value? You want something to be earth shattering every sales meeting. You want to close 15 loans a month every month, right? And it's just not always the reality. And so sometimes I think it's natural for any loan officer, and myself included, to have those mindset struggles sometimes, and making sure that your mind is right. And even more so, that's the importance of having community, and being able to have a partner like you, and to come alongside you, and again, the whole iron sharpens iron thing. I mean, you can help me when I'm down on something, and vice versa. So uh, we're not meant to be on an island in life. I think we're meant to have community, and I think that goes for our business as well.
So talk to that, because right now we're hearing from a lot of broker owners that, which is what Brian was prior, that it is a lot of people are feeling that loneliness that we talked about. For us, like, I don't necessarily feel that. I happen to have an office that I love, and I've been lucky that we consistently have 10 people in the office every day. I wish we had, like, I mean, today was a full day. I don't know,
Yeah.
we had like 20, 25 people. That's awesome. I prefer that. I wish those were the circumstances. That's not where the markets are,
Right.
and so many people live in different states and things like that. But um, talk about the broker. I mean, you obviously made a big shift when we
Yeah.
decided to partner, and you went from. I remember there was a dinner, or we were having drinks or dinner or something, like, like, I've never had business partners before.
Yeah.
Like, I'm used to making all the decisions.
Yeah.
What would you tell a broker owner who is having those same thoughts, and about what it's like to partner with companies like John and ours?
Well, change is scary for anybody. And I started my broker shop when I was 25 years old, young and dumb, very little mortgage experience, very few mentors. I jumped into the deep end of the pool and had to sink or swim. And when you're first starting to swim, you're kind of doing the doggy paddle, just trying to figure out like how to tread water. And then you learn as you go. I think that what I'm seeing is a weight has been lifted off of my shoulders, because as a broker owner trying to scale a business, you can't be the end all be all, and you can't be the bottleneck. And too often I found myself in that position. And that's one of the things that we talked about in our coaching group, is you can't be the bottleneck. And here I am trying to be an ops manager, a compliance manager, an HR manager, CFO of my company, a loan officer, all these different hats. And so
Not just loan officer, top producer.
top producer. Yeah. So it got to a point where I wasn't doing any one of those key functions with excellence. I was treading water in all of those areas. And what that does is that limits your ability to grow and scale. You're fatigued. I found myself having all these problems in my head that I couldn't solve at any one time. And I would take that with me to my home when I wanted to be present with my wife and my daughters and really investing in them. So I would find myself at home worrying about the business, and then I'd be worrying about my family. Like, it just kind of created this dynamic where I wasn't being my best. I wasn't doing my best. And the things that I'm really good at, I wasn't able to function in because I was spending too much time on all the other stuff. So the concept of we are better together than we are apart on our own rings true for me in a very vivid way right now, because that weight is lifted off my shoulders. I'm finding that I'm able to focus on relationships. I'm focusing on growth. I've got an amazing CFO in Jill who's taking care of all those numbers and the bookkeeping, and I don't have to mess with it, and HR issues that I don't have to deal with. I've got Jared dialing in the ops and making sure that we're staffed and that we have automation and efficiency. You're helping with direction of the company and leadership. And so now all of us are able to do what we're good at, what we enjoy. We're rowing in the same direction. And now there's growth, right? And I'm a person who wants to be a part of growth. I'm a big believer in, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. And that's what the last 2 years felt like. And I think that's where the inspiration from Grit came from, was it's been a tough couple of years, and we got to dig in, and we got to dig in with people that we trust and not feel like we're doing it all on our own.
Yeah, I think it's very well said. John, any parting words as we wrap up?
Yeah, I think if loan officers are listening to this, the power comes in the people. You got to surround yourself with the right people. If you feel like you're kind of by yourself, reach out to any of us and just have a conversation as far as, lean on that. Hoping to help create a community through like Cageless and other things that we've been a part of, so that people can start doing those things again without being sold something. I would just, my word of advice and my parting words is like, the joy that we keep talking about is in the people. So find your people, find your tribe. That's my best bit of advice. If you're by yourself and you're waking up, you don't have anybody to talk to get through the day, go find someone.
I love that.
Yeah, I do too. And I think that one really cool thing for where we're at, Brian, which I absolutely love, is that, a couple years ago, we would have been really excited to meet with any loan officer. And so you had more of a desperation. And, and today our company, we're not there anymore. We're at a point where things are going really well. And my absolute most favorite thing about owning a company is that at the end of the day, like we were just talking about before the show, John, I don't care if you're a producer, if you're an asshole, or if you're going to bring cancer into my locker room, I don't want you. Mm-hmm. I don't need the extra money. Like, that's not the point. Because what ends up happening is that person is going to slowly bleed your company in so many different ways. Yeah. And all of a sudden you start losing your best processor. You lose someone, you start losing operational people because they get yelled at. And I think hopefully this market over the last 3 years has really humbled people. So you shouldn't have as many assholes in the industry anymore. And I think a lot more people are understanding and empathetic of just the industry in general, and the fact that we are survivors and we've all survived this time. And hey, it turns right around the corner, and we're going to be poised and ready to go. And interest rates drop, we're all going to get real busy again. So thank you both for being on the show. John, we're going to put all your contact information in the show notes. In case anybody is interested in chatting with you. Absolutely. Brian, they can find you and I anywhere. Yeah. We're regulars, but thanks again. Thanks, guys, for being on the show.
Thanks.
Okay, that's enough whining for one day. We are so happy that you could join us today on Stop Whining About Real Estate. So please, not only listen, but subscribe, follow us, download, share, and if you're feeling it, give us a 5-star review. Hey, and if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please email stopwhining@choicemortgage.com. Thanks so much.